Halstead Telephone Company and R&J Broadcasting Incorporated is proud to present to you this broadcast on YourLiveEvent.com.
And welcome into the YourLiveEvent.com Robotics Show. I'm your host, Mac Robinson. Of course, we are powered by Enbridge, and we're bringing you all of the top coverage that you need when it comes to the world of robotics here with YourLiveEvent.com. And of course, got a couple of great conversations coming up. Later on, going to be talking with 5653, the Iron Mosquitoes, as a mentor Ryan Lindsay, as well as some of the students. Got a chance to speak with them. But first, I'm going to start with my conversation I had with Jenny Engel, the mentor for the Mechatronics out of Alexandria, 3313. Here's my conversation with Jenny. And joining us now, we have Jenny Engel of the Mechatronics, 3313. And Jenny, you guys are obviously out at your event there as well, out in Missouri. One, thank you for taking the time. And, two, when it comes to this part of the year in particular, obviously, you're midway through the season here as well. What's it been like, from, the initial time? I know we talked initially too, right after we found out about the game. So from that point until now, where have you seen the biggest area of growth when it comes to your students and the process that they've gone through this year?
Well, I mean, it's always amazing to see what the robot becomes. When we first started, I think we talked to you week 0, and that was, man, we were just trying to think about like what design would be best and kind of work on strategy. And those are all good things to start with thinking about, but then really seeing them grow and morph their ideas into not just this crazy idea, being able to bring it back around and see what they can do. We had a couple of mentors that really helped us CAD this year, and that was a relatively new piece for us to feel like we felt more solid in. So that was exciting. And then, we went to the Great Northern Regional 2 weeks ago and did okay. We were having some struggles with our swerve drive, and we just started that fresh this year. So we knew that was going to be a struggle area for us. And we really were able to persevere and have a lot of time just put into it and asking for help from other teams that obviously have done it a few years in a row. And then being able to come home for a week and really crank out a lot of amazing work. Not that what they do isn't amazing during the season, but obviously the drive and knowing that your next goal is barely a week or just over a week away, it really gives them a lot of push to have the energy to put a lot of work into the robot, and then also into our outreach and impact areas as well. So a lot of the conversations in the shop are just fun to listen to because, they're talking strategy. They're talking about ways to really up their game in their robot, maybe a small, simple fix that might have a bigger impact. And then just being able to talk about our team. So they're really good about, saying, hey, this was a conversation I had with a judge. This is how I would answer it again next time. So having kind of those small, what they think is smaller conversations, but really make a huge impact in the end. So yeah.
Well, and with that being said, too, obviously getting a chance to see you guys over in Grand Forks at that regional event there as well, for having such a quick turnaround in particular, and, having to make those adjustments from Grand Forks, then go ahead and have to, put in extra time in order to make sure that, they're ready for this next event. How do you as a mentor try to, help them along in that sense too, when it comes to getting them prepared for that, as well as also just helping out along the way?
Well, I think a lot of it just comes down to balance. I mean, we have to have communication balance because the reality is they still need to keep their grades up in order to come to the next regional. And they also Mother Nature throws a wrench in every once in a while, and you have snow days where you can't go to school and you can't work on the robot. And that was clearly a plan that we had for most of the week. So really talking about balance of communication, and then making sure that they don't stress themselves out completely before we even get to the next regional. So a balance in that equation as well. Simply because, if you put in a ridiculous amount of time and you're burnt out before you even get to the regional, number one, it won't be fun. And that's definitely what robotics is about. But number two, you're not going to perform as well. So kind of like, other sports athletes, you got to taper out a little bit at the end and just be ready for the next big competition. So, we ended Grand Forks, we were ranked 27 out of 53 teams. And we're looking forward to hopefully being in the top 15 here. So I think we feel confident that we've been able to make a lot of advances. Clearly, we are seeing a ton of different robots here, and some of them are pretty phenomenal. So we'll see what happens, but we're definitely looking forward to doing better than our top half finish of qualification matches and hopefully seeing some final plays this round.
Well, and I'll say this too. You mentioned it too with the regional event there as well. Get to see a lot of different teams, obviously. And, you guys down in Missouri now at this point, definitely get a lot of teams that you might not necessarily see up here in Minnesota. But
yes,
at the same time, you guys get a different look at different strategies and different teams, different approaches. And so with that being said too, have you guys picked up on any different strategy, notes from other teams that you think, maybe we might be able to implement that for what we do?
Yeah, I mean, some of the small pieces are even just figuring out like, okay, what have we seen? We've just finished practice matches today. So being able to look at robots and say, okay, well, this autonomous of balancing the charge is not happening for a lot of teams. So is that what we need to do to stand out? So I think even, having conversations with the other teams, getting to know them, getting to understand, what their approach is and how that works well with our approach, or maybe doesn't work well, and that's a reality too, is definitely good conversations. But then saying, okay, here's what we're seeing in the gameplay. This is not really much anything different than what we did out of the regionals. What can we do to make ourselves stand out more? Hopefully, we'll be able to be in the top 8 and be picking teams, but worst case scenario, we want to be high on the list for one of the teams to pick us as well. So again, what makes us stand out besides just the fact that we're from Minnesota?
And Jenny, with that being said too, we talked about the strategic elements, obviously, when the game first came out. But in your eyes, where have you seen maybe some different wrinkles into the game and maybe some of those difficulties that might not have been present when you first initially saw the game there back in January?
Yeah, I mean, so picking up cones right away, we knew that was going to be not the easiest thing, but being able to actually hang on to them as you are driving across the field, definitely seeing some people that are or bots that are not able to just sustain. And then how fast can you cycle? And one of the big pieces I know that I felt it was a game changer at the Great Northern Regional was having a bot that was okay or good at doing defense and not gaining penalty points. Because then if you have that super strong bot that you're going against that's able to cycle really quickly and pick up cones and cubes, really well and placing them well, then you got to just try to slow them down so that they're doing a couple less cycles and maybe getting a couple less links or maybe a little more flustered, kind of playing the mind game a little bit on that one. And that's okay too. And so really just, having the conversations about penalties because they definitely are a game changer. And then you have end game. So being able to have 3 robots on the charge station and balanced is kind of you have to at the point once you're into finals. So whether your bot is small enough or you can maneuver it enough to be able to make that last end game points happen, that's definitely again a big game changer. Can swing it quite a bit. But penalties, defense, and end game, autonomous definitely as well. Like if you don't have anybody balancing the charge station, that's going to be a huge negative on your alliance side. And the reality is some teams are able to do it and some aren't. And right now we're not in the category of balancing, but we are able to do a couple of cubes and cones in our autonomous. So we're getting there. We're getting better. We're doing what makes sense for us and hoping that we can again alliance ourselves in finals, hopefully with a team that is able to do those other things that we're not as strong at.
And Jenny, with where we're at here in the year, obviously you already mentioned that you guys were at the Great Northern Regional event. Obviously you guys are down there in Missouri there as well. but, for you guys, or at least for you, what are some of the highlights of this year, Ben, with this group, especially, whether it be, at the regional events or even some of the behind the scenes stuff with the build and everything like that? What's really stood out in your eyes so far this year?
Well, I'm always proud of the fact that I really believe that our team is a family. And so to see them talking to each other and including each other, and we're not always all in the same building at the same time because we have all very busy lives. And so being able to say, hey, guess what? I'm going to catch you up on what's going on in the build so that you're able to step in and do amazing work as well. So it's not a whole lot of it's definitely a lot of the team work. I'm always proud of that, but having I would call us a slightly younger team. I would say, we've had to do a little bit of rebuilding. And so still seeing that family piece just kind of live on genuinely through the kiddos, and obviously some of the stuff that we choose to do as an organization, it feels really good. So, and a quick example with that even is right now in Alexandria, there is a STEAM Expo hosted at the high school. And we have alumni and mentors that didn't make the trip down with us that are literally running the show there. So it's just been really cool to see all the work of organization and pulling things together with time management actually come to fruition, and they're doing amazing work. So they're growing, and every year that's the biggest thing, is to make sure that we're making growth in the right direction.
Well, Jenny, I'm looking forward to seeing how your team grows, especially through this next event as well. Best of luck to you guys. And again, appreciate the time. Thank you for joining me.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
Restock on food, fuel, and baits at locally owned Station 371 on Highway 371 in Pine River. Station 371 has bait and tackle, quality Cenex gasoline, off-road diesel, and is the only stop with #1 diesel. Make sure to stop by to wash off the sand and salt with their indoor car wash, open when the temp is at least 26 degrees. They'll hook you up with your fishing and hunting licenses too. Station 371 on Highway 371 in Pine River. Thank you for supporting local business.
Let's get real. Get ready for a place that's big enough to grow and small enough to care. The University of Minnesota Crookston offers more than 35 majors, minors, and certificates. Earn a University of Minnesota degree, where you can make a difference in a close-knit community. Faculty become friends, and friends feel like family. You don't need a big city, just big dreams. The University of Minnesota Crookston. Real, hands-on, and will get you ready for anything.
And thank you to Jenny Engel, of course, for always the great conversation, of course, of the Mechatronics 3313. Talked with her, but now let's talk with some of her students over with the Mechatronics, but also got a chance to speak with one of the students when it comes to the UC Botics of 4480. Here's my conversation with the guys over with the UC Botics as well as the Mechatronics. And so a little bit of a crossover here on YourLiveEvent.com, the robotics show, as we have a little bit of a crossover, the Mechatronics 3313, as well as UC Botics 4480, joining us from their event, from the regional event down there in Missouri. And we got Braden and Ethan from the Mechatronics, and we have Hunter from UC Botics as well. So guys, I'll go ahead and just ask you, when it comes to, an event like this, especially getting a chance to see teams that you're not necessarily used to seeing, what's it like getting a chance to see some of the different strategies and some of the different ways that these teams have approached their robots so far this year when it comes to their games this year?
Yeah, so obviously in a completely new state, we have almost no knowledge of any of these teams before. Interesting thing is just seeing everybody has a new perspective. Every robot is a different strategy from anything we've seen before, and it's different people. So it's a lot of different thinking than anything we've seen before. I know there is a robot that shoots the cones and cubes instead of just picks them up and puts them on. A lot of them are a lot more bottom heavy. That way they don't tip as much, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and even, coming down here and just even seeing the environment, not seeing our snowy tundra that we're used to, seeing the green grass, seeing a bunch of these teams that they're just also happy, and they see us and they're like, holy cow, this is amazing to have teams from so far away come down here just to compete.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few new people. Even just not even the ideas that they have are, yeah, like Ethan was saying, completely different. The way that they drive and think is unlike other teams, and yet they're not all completely different. Like, I thought it was going to be much more of a stark change between the GNR and the Missouri Regional, but they run pretty much the same. And I think that's kind of cool to think that everywhere, not just around us, people still kind of are the same in a way, but different.
And
you always come back to the same point that creative minds think alike.
yeah, and that's definitely a fair point too. And the other side of it too is that I know, Ethan, I talked with you up at Grand Forks about it as well, but the strategy behind scoring this year, obviously previously it was different methods it was pretty straightforward last year, but this year, obviously there's different methods and ways to attack it as well. Have you guys seen similar things when it comes to that down there as well? Or has it been, different in that sense? Because I know in talking with the team in Montana, they had mentioned that there was more of a focus on cubes out west, whereas there was a focus on cones in Minnesota. So is there any differences that you guys have noticed in that regard as well?
Yeah. So an example this year, there's a lot less there's lots of will to go over the charge station. A lot of people want to go around it this time. And it's creating a need for strategy about who's moving where and what position you're going to go in. Because due to the fact that a large portion of the scoring area is that charging station, not going on it means that you have very limited area to use.
Yes, and I have seen some of the matches even here that I'm watching, just the practice matches. There's some where it's literally just all cubes, no cones. Then you see somewhere it's all cones. It's a great mix of both.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. There is some differences between scoring. I'd say for GNR, there was a really big focus on getting those links. I know a lot of teams got those ranking points for links. And what I was noticing during the practice matches today was a lot of people were focusing on just getting everything in the grid rather than linking it up. And they were scoring a lot of points through that rather than through actual links.
Interesting. And the other side of it too is that obviously now we're almost through March at this point. I know the season flies by, but at the same time, for all of you guys, when it comes to the in-season, adjustments at this point compared to where we were talking just a few months ago when you guys found out about the game back in January, what's the biggest change and the biggest differences that you guys have seen from, the initial concepts that you guys might have thought about? And I know it's going to be interesting for both of your teams, but, from the initial thoughts of the concepts to, where you guys are at now and maybe some of the adjustments that you guys have made.
So, yeah, one of the big things that we thought about at week 0 was frame parameters. How are we going to make it so that way our bot doesn't extend frame parameters and still yet reaches? And we found a rather simple solution to that with just extending 2 frame parameter topwards and then using an arm to swing out from there, and that reaches just fine. But now we're realizing that we didn't exactly put enough time and strategy into thinking about the game this year, because this year it's a lot less about what your robot can do, and it's more about how your robot does it and the strategy behind that.
Yeah, and even for our team, we originally started out with just a straight cone robot. Which all we were going to be was cone, single cone pickup. Now we have complete flip-flops. Now we can do cube and cone. But another thought we had, which this is just more of a gag, but we're like, let's flip some cones. I'd like to flip some cones on some poles. That would be interesting. But then we're like, yeah, it'd be hard, but oh boy, it would be fun.
Yeah, well, for our team, our design process was vastly different throughout the starting of the season. We saw the game and we had half the team coming up with different arm designs that we could possibly use. And we had to do several democracy votes. I don't know what to call it. We had to vote on quite a lot of arm designs before we got down the one that we're using. And honestly, I think it didn't go that badly. I think that this arm we ended up going with was the right choice for us.
And I got to ask you guys too, because it's the one thing that, whenever I'm at these events and, getting a chance to see how you guys interact, especially in the pit there as well, when things pop up and obviously you need to make repairs and everything like that, how do you guys kind of handle that, especially? Because I know for me, like I'd be stressed out of my mind. So how do you guys kind of keep level headed when it comes to some of the repairs that you guys have to make and deal with during these events?
So the way that we do it, a lot of parts will have certain members of our team that are really just specialists in that area. And what we typically will do, if it is something that is rather simple fix, we'll just have like the drivers who are there in the pits fix it. But if it's something that is a bit bigger, we'll have two of those drivers go up to the pits and get that person who needs to come down and fix it. And that way we have a new level-headed person come down and know what they're doing, what they need to fix, and can fix it right.
Right. And even our team, it's the biggest way to put it is it's a controlled chaos. I'm the safety captain, so I got to make sure, everyone's safe. So we have two people who are pretty much our main mechanics, technicians, whatever you want to call them. But we'll let those two go in and, everyone can pitch their ideas and see what they think could change, because you never know. Some ideas just might be, the simplest things, but they're groundbreaking. They work really well. So I just let, them two take control, and I try to back everyone off and just give them breathing room.
Yeah, kind of like what Ethan was saying, our team, we really have people that just know what they're doing. And when they know what they're doing, they're not dealing with the stress of finding a problem that they don't know how to solve. So if it's a problem on the coding side, we're not going to have the guy who built our arm to do the coding. That wouldn't make any sense. So by keeping everyone in their specialties, it allows them to stay more calm and collected throughout it. And actually, it allows us to make repairs a lot faster, because I know even last year we had very little specialty going on, and we had people trying to repair everything, and it was very chaotic. But this year we are making any repairs we need lickety split very quickly.
And last question for you guys here too, but so far, obviously we're almost into April, like I mentioned before, but so far through this season, what have been some of the highlights of this year when it comes to robotics in your eyes? And whether it be at an event or whether it be something behind the scenes that really just, comes to the forefront immediately when you think about how this year's kind of played out for you guys.
So for me, most definitely the highlight has just been spending time with my team, because this year I've gotten to know a lot of my team so much better and made a lot of friends. And this has just been great. We have done so much. We hang out together on a regular basis. We even played some Dungeons and Dragons on the bus the way here. And we just, all in all, have had a great time this year.
I gotta ask real quick. I gotta ask, who is the DM and what was the class? Okay. All right. Good to know. Good to know. I kind of figured, but I had to ask. Did all of you guys play then on the bus ride then?
No, we had a smaller group of 3313 play, and I'm pretty sure 4480 was planning to play. I don't know if you guys did.
Oh yeah, we had our mentor and a few of our students playing together in the front of the bus.
Okay. Yeah. Then I got to ask you guys, race and class.
So we had 4 players in my campaign. There was a Dragonborn Barbarian, a half-elf Bard, a human Ranger, and a Goliath Fighter. Okay.
All right. See, I'm a grung fighter, so I appreciate it. So yeah, sorry to derail that a little bit. So Hunter and then Braden, you guys go ahead. Let me know what are some of the highlights that you guys have had this year when it comes to this season of robotics.
Well, the trip down here, and the biggest fact for our team is this is the first year we've had impact team since COVID hit, and I am head of that. So getting us together and really hitting the nail hard on the head there. We've been working really hard towards this. It's just incredible to see, everyone put their input in of what they think we could change. And we sat down with each and every one of our students and we did interviews, and we put that in our video, and I almost started crying after watching it, to be honest with you.
Love to hear the emotion. Braden, what you got?
Well, I think a highlight, as it is for me for every year, I really enjoy actually going to the regional, seeing the new faces, getting to spend the time with my team. Like Ethan said, hanging out on the bus for 10 hours. Like, I like you guys, but 10 hours. Whew. No, it was really great to see that everyone was excited. We didn't have anybody getting on the bus going, "Oh my God, we have to go to Missouri." It was all, "We got to go to Missouri." Seeing everyone excited.
We get to see grass.
That was a conversation we had multiple times.
Oh, yes.
But seeing everyone, even in practice, just come in happy and nobody was like freaking out it's a great feeling to know that your team is not, sad. I'm glad everyone's happy.
Right. And not even just your guys' team, but everyone on that bus, my team too included, all the mentors, everyone. Everyone was just smiling from ear to ear to come out and do what we love to do.
It was great.
See, and that's what we love about robotics, and that's what I love about this conversation. Again, Hunter, Ethan, and Braden, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate the time. Love the conversation.
Anytime.
Hey, you're welcome. This was awesome.
We're definitely looking forward to having you guys on again.
My name is Jared, born and raised in Minnesota, and I'm a project director at Enbridge. Enbridge is more than a pipeline company. It's a company participating in renewable energy projects in Minnesota and abroad, and I'm really proud to be working here.
We believe a cleaner energy future is achievable. For over 20 years, we've been early adopters of renewable energy, and we're proudly committed to net zero emissions by 2050. To hear more from Jared, visit enbridge.com/Jared. That's JERRID.
And joining me now, we got the mentor of the Iron Mosquitoes joining me. Of course, Iron Mosquitoes 5653, Ryan Lindsay joining me. And Ryan, one, thank you for the time. And two, you guys have a couple of these events underneath your guys' belt. What have you seen in the difference from your students from when they got the game initially to, what you've seen from them now at this point?
Oh, there gets to be a point in the season you're working so hard and it's just a lot of work. And then, you do an event and you're like, oh, we made it and it feels good. And then like the second event comes and you're like, oh, and then they do okay. And I don't know, it seems like they're fired up now and we've got the world's competition coming up. So they're breaking everything down and there's energy and they're like up in their game, getting stronger because they know who they got to compete against things. So it's, I don't know, there's that mid-season lull and then we're looking at playoffs now and everyone's getting all fired up, kind of like in basketball or something.
Right. And with that being said too, I know I talked with them a little bit about, the adjustments when it comes to their robot, especially too, for you as a mentor, getting a chance to see them, not only, be able to build this up, but also make those adjustments too. How do you try to support them as well when it comes to some of those decisions that they make when it comes to, how they adjust their robot as well?
I have a credit card, so I just try to stay on their way. No, it's kind of fun when they start leading that a little bit and then you just let them go. I mean, that's what it's all about, is they can kind of become little independent things. And I think the big thing for me is just, this is how much time we have, and then having a bigger picture of what we can get done, and then just kind of deadlines and get them focused on a path where we can actually accomplish it and get it coded. So, but really I'm learning right along with them. It's a lot of fun when they start pushing the envelopes.
And then the other side of it too, you mentioned it with Worlds coming up in just a few weeks or a little over a month at this point now. At this point, the quickness of the season always, gets me where, again, it really feels like it really was a few weeks ago where we were talking about just learning about the game as a whole and, getting a chance to see the differences in the game so far. How do you try to make those, see how the game is played out and not only be able to take that in and learn it, but also be ready to try to get prepared for that championship level, the world's level there as well?
So we say it every season, do one thing and do it really well. And I think 90% of the time we try to do everything and then we don't do everything really well. So we built a whole arm, we spent weeks on it. And we actually tried it twice and we're like, it's not tuned yet. And then we ended up not needing it. So I think it's really just figuring out what you do and just do lots of repetition and make sure that it's indestructible, if that makes sense. Like, and it's so hard to know that. You want to tackle everything and do everything, but you've got to find out where you stand out and just hyper focus.
When it comes to a lot of these regional events, especially too, getting a chance to finally go to one a few weeks ago up in Grand Forks for me, I feel like it's fascinating to see just the scale of it all, especially. But when it comes to you getting a chance to see the robot from, inception basically to, where it's at now, but not only that, but seeing how the students work together, what are some of your favorite aspects of, kind of the journey along the way when it comes to some of these kids as well?
It's that real life experience, right? Like in assignments in school, there's a right answer and you just have to regurgitate it kind of thing. But like, no one knows how to do what we're doing. So then, you have ideas and you have arguments and then you make it and you're like, oh, that didn't work how we want. It's this constant process of improvement. And that's really real world stuff, right? You got to get in, you do it. It's going to be better the next time you do it. And you just keep getting better. Like I love seeing people work through that and then being able to pivot and adjust and just that learning. And then they have ideas for next time and then they're quicker the next go around. They learn new skills to get what they want done. Like just that drive to figure things out is just a fun thing to be a part of.
And one other aspect too, for me, at least when it comes to, this year's game in particular, and I think we talked about it before a little bit, but seeing it in action now too, I feel like it almost really stands out even more. And it's the fact that this game, there's so many different strategies that you really can attack this year's game with, because you have the cubes, you have the cones. Some people only attack cubes, some people only attack cones. And, heck, we talked to a team in Montana in Grand Forks, and they had said that, one in Montana, it was completely cubes. And then you come over to Grand Forks and it's all cones. And so, for you, at least when it comes to the team, especially here too, that strategy, how has that played a factor in this year when it comes to almost the flexibility and different ways that you can attack this year's game?
Yeah, so we're a shooter bot. I think we're the only ones we've ever seen. We go to the back of the charge station and just spray that ball in there somewhere. I mean, sphere, cube, ball, it's a ball. So we just throw that in there and majority of them kind of score, or we'll go tap them in at the end. So we're different in a lot of teams, and that's worked out for us just based on everyone else is doing cones high, it seems like, and we can stay out of the way, and we don't win a lot of qualification matches, but we're high volume and we can really assist and stay out of the way of some of those teams that are going high. So like we've been very confident every tournament that we're going to get picked at the end, which is fun. Yeah, so we know the number 1 and number 2 alliances have had us on their list, and then number 3 has picked us in the 2 tournaments we're in. It's been a lot of fun. We've had some rough matches where, not a lot of, we don't win, but like we put a lot of cubes in there. And if you just do your job and you do it well, teams are going to recognize and they're going to want you a part of the alliance. So it's fun that like those different robots, like you can't have all the same robot working together. So at the end, you need a variety on your team to fully function. It's neat to see that come together.
And Ryan, last question for you here too, but you guys, you mentioned, or some of the kids had mentioned too before, the fact that they had gotten a chance to go to Worlds, and getting that experience, especially too, for your team, and now for you guys, now again getting prepared to go once again. How does that experience really help, especially when it comes to this year's game, this year's robot, and having that whole experience of going last year, knowing what it takes to get there and to succeed?
Well, we didn't go last year, so I don't have a clue. Like, I don't know. We're just trying to fundraise right now. So if I can get the plane tickets figured out. So yeah, we've got a lot of younger kids, and they wear their sweatshirts 2-3 times a week. They're proud of what they've done and they're proud of the something. And I think that'll really spur a lot of them on to do the work that's necessary to build a new robot and things. So I know I've heard it's a great experience to get down there. And then once kids get down there, they're super hungry to make it happen again. And if you're motivated nothing can really get in your way as a young person. And I love to see the excitement and the motivation, and they're just getting stuff done. And that's how you grow, right? Just be active. And I like being part of that. So I'm hoping we're coming back stronger next year.
All right, Ryan. Well, hey, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Ryan Lindsay of the Iron Mosquitoes, 5653, joining us on the YourLiveEvent.com Robotics Show.
This year, Schrupp Excavating is celebrating 40 years of digging it right. With this milestone year, Schrupp Excavating wants to thank all of their past, current, and future employees and customers. They appreciate all you've done to help Schrupp Excavating become one of the most trusted companies in the Lakes area. For any excavation project, Schrupp Excavating will have your project done right and on time, serving Pine River, Bacchus, Pequot Lakes, and all the surrounding communities. Schrupp Excavating LLC, online at schruppexcavating.com.
The PRB Boosters are happy to sponsor coverage of the Tigers. Like them on Facebook for events and fundraisers. The PRB Boosters could use your help. Be part of great events and fundraisers, all built to give back and present more opportunities for the students of Pine River Bacchus schools. For information or to get started, email prboosterclub1.com. Meetings are the first Monday of every month at 6 p.m. at the school. Good luck, Tigers, from the PRB Boosters.
Special thanks to Ryan Lindsay, mentor for the Iron Mosquitoes, 5653. Great chatting with him as always. And now going to go ahead and speak with some of the students from the Iron Mosquitoes as well, 5653. Here's my conversation with the students.
Problem we've ran into with the robot is we switched to a swerve drivetrain this year. And when trying it out on our first regional, our wheels kind of blew up.
Yeah, they kind of shredded. They lasted 2 matches and we had to switch them out. So it sucked. That was one of the things. I think like overall, just like in game factor, I think was just figuring out how to maneuver around the other robots, because there's a lot of crossover in the field when you're making those cycles.
Yeah,
I think that, and I know that there's a lot of issues with human players, and there was a lot of like crossover with just human players behind the lines.
Well, and with that being said too, how do you guys, stay kind of level-headed when you guys are dealing with the fact that, like you guys were mentioning, the fact that, you go a couple matches in and your wheels explode on you. So, how do you guys try to keep a level head when it comes to all of that as well?
We do debriefs after every match. We do debriefs, and we go, what went right, what went wrong after every match. And then we always remember like we're doing good, where we want to be. Like it's just about repeating and making sure that everyone's at the same page of like that we are where we want to be. It sucks when your robot breaks, but it's an easy fix. Takes us maybe 2 minutes to replace the wheels. So it was like wheels are broken. We need to figure out a different fix for that. So like now we have wheels, aluminum hubs and things like that are way long lasting, last the entire regional. So it's just about problem solving and figuring things out after the fact.
And, one aspect especially that, from getting a chance to watch it, a few times here as well, I feel like the interesting aspect is the fact that, there's so many different ways that you guys can attack, scoring this year. Obviously in previous years, it's been pretty straightforward, but this year it's almost do you want to attack it with cones? Do you want to attack it with cubes? When it came to your thought process going into it, and, now obviously having some experience out there as well with your robot there too, have you guys had any strategy going in, or has there been, an adaptation when it comes to the strategy going into it from what you guys have been able to see so far?
So our strategy going in was we were going to do both cubes and cones. But after a couple matches, we're like, oh, it's so much easier to just cycle cubes than it is to like try and do cones and cubes. And so our robot was really unique in the fact that we could shoot cubes. So we were doing like 9 to 10 cycles of cubes per match, filling up that whole bottom row just so effortlessly.
I think when we first went to our first regional, we didn't have everything entirely finished. So there was a lot of development in like what our strategy was going to be and kind of what our robot was going to do. Like we had everything was built. It was mostly just coding and auto and stuff like that. But there's definitely a lot of development strategy.
And then, with that being said too, how have you guys, or how has that really kind of evolved, as this, whole process has kind of come along too. You mentioned the coding aspect in there too. How has that kind of evolved? And when it comes to, some of the other strategies that you guys have seen, is there anything that you guys might have looked at that other teams have done and maybe think, hey, you know what, we might be able to implement that for what we do?
We're rebuilding our intake right now. That's something we took off our arm for our cones, like it's gone, because we've seen a lot of teams who like their arm, like it's slow. It's like there's a lot of slow arms. So like just taking that off because we're not using it. So why is it on our robot kind of thing? It's just a lot of obviously watching other robots and seeing what they're doing and then reflecting it kind of onto our robot. So like making like some robots specifically will drive against the wall to make sure they're out of their alliance's way when they're going to the loading zones. So like putting that into our strategy and making sure that we are out of that way and we are the ideal robot for that.
Okay. And then on top of that too, what are some things that you guys have been working on when it comes to the robot, especially as well?
Our intake.
Well, yeah.
So
Focusing on cubes, really.
yeah, focusing on cubes. And robot as a whole is
Getting better at cycling cubes, seeing what we can do to better ourselves.
see what happens. One thing that we're trying to figure out right now is what do we do after we fill up the entire bottom row, because we keep getting the point where we've got all 3 of those links and then we kind of get stuck in like we're just still shooting but we're not getting any points doing that. So it's figuring out the aftermath of that.
Okay. And I know we had talked a little bit beforehand too. I know you guys have been working on some drafting up some different designs, everything like that too. What do you guys have for that as well?
Do you want me to share that with you?
Yeah, by all means.
Okay. So, this is what our build captain has been working on recently, and making sure that we have what we need. And he's really proud of this. And so we changed to pneumatics because we had a couple of issues with our chain. So that's part of it. So
Okay.
it's gonna fold up here like this. And this is like the resting position.
Okay.
And so what's gonna be great about this is it's gonna shoot out and be able to just suck the cubes under.
Mhm.
And when the intake pulls back in, it's gonna be a lot more secure and we're not gonna have issues with cubes bouncing out or anything like that. Along with we won't have to worry about motors running and overheating and things like that.
Okay. That's fascinating, actually. I really like that. And when it comes to, this kind of a change too, is that something that you guys have done in the past where it comes to, this much of a design change where, like you guys mentioned, you took the entire arm off and, now you guys are adjusting this and trying to implement that as well? Is that something that you guys have dealt with in the past too? And when it comes to trying to adjust to this mid-season as well, how do you guys try to mentally try to get through that aspect of it as well and try to prepare in that way?
So I know that one thing that we've done is we make sure we had right after we were getting back from our second regional, we were like mental check-ins. Where are you? Are you able to come into robotics? Do you need to take a mental day? Do you need to take a day just to catch up on work? So we definitely take time to figure out where we are, stance and just mental, before we just go straight in. And then once we go straight in, it's like we need to get this done. We have a deadline because we're going places and I know most of our team has a band trip that we're going to Florida. And so we're spending an entire week in Florida that we're not gonna have time building on the robot. So it's like trying to get stuff done before that deadline.
Okay. And then, last question that I have for you guys too is that, when it comes to, as we're in the middle of the season here as well, what are some of your favorite parts, when it comes to robotics here now as we're, in the heat of the season at this point now, you guys are adjusting obviously, and you guys have some events underneath your belt. What are some of your favorite parts too, especially about robotics here now in the middle of the season as well?
I think my favorite part is, you know, each week you get to see a new robot design. So when the new regional comes out, you can scroll through, look and see what type of robots they have. And I think it's pretty cool in some of the designs that they have.
I'd say that like a highlight for this season would have been at our first regional when they were announcing the Impact Award, and like they started talking about like the team, and like their like first couple words were coming out of the pandemic, and like that's like part of our whole team story is like the aftermath of the pandemic and what we've done since then. So I'd say like how the outcome of that and like our team just it was so awesome.
I think I liked going to our second regional because it was a lot smaller. And because we had already made it to Worlds, we had already won the Impact Award. So it was a lot less stressful in the fact that like it wasn't like that we didn't care more than it was just that it was kind of cool to be there and be like, yeah, we're already going to Worlds, but we're still going to compete to our best ability and just it kind of do it for fun more than an actual goal.
All right. Well, perfect. Matthew, Natalie, Thule, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate the time.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is the Iron Mosquitoes of 5653 joining me here on the YourLiveEvent.com Robotics Show. That's going to go ahead and do it for this week's edition of the YourLiveEvent.com Robotics Show. As always, appreciate our conversations with the Mechatronics, as well as UC Botics and the Iron Mosquitoes as well. And of course, as always, we are powered by Enbridge here on the YourLiveEvent.com Robotics Show. We want to say thank you to all of you for tuning in. Thank you to our sponsors as well. Make sure you guys go ahead and hit that like button. Go ahead and hit that bell to get notified when we go live as well and when the new updates and the new editions of the YourLiveEvent.com Robotics Show go live right here on the YourLiveEvent.com YouTube channel, as well as on YourLiveEvent.com as well. But for Jack, I'm Mac Robinson. We want to say thank you all for tuning in. We'll catch you next week right here on the YourLiveEvent.com Robotics Show.